So now I want to talk about what I did to the freezer log and how I did it, because I think there's a lot of tricks in there that can be helpful for various things, but also for maintaining it. So the way that you can create a drop-down menu here, and drop-down menu is a good way to make sure that nobody makes spelling mistakes that won't mess with your data later, or so somebody doesn't just put something totally random in it or whatever. And the way that you do this is first you want to type out all of your options. So for this case we have parent, subclone, and other. And in the real freezer log there's immortality or empty and different things like that. Like to keep it simple, and select all of the fields in which you want a drop-down menu, and then if you go to the Data tab in Excel and go to Data Validation, on the Allow criteria you can select List, and any other of these options you want to explore, but we'll go with List for now. And then for the source I'm going to select my earlier typed out list and press OK. And now if I go to any one of these, I can press the little arrow and select what is in there. So that's kind of neat and easy. The other thing is you can use conditional formatting to color code these, which is just for the sake of prettiness, but it's kind of nice. If you go to under the Home tab, Conditional Formatting, New Rule, and this is just a good trick also for a lot of things that you want to do in Excel, but you can say format only cells that contain. I say specific text, and we'll say parent. And then here you choose the format, so say I want parent in blue. Press OK. Suddenly all of those are highlighted in blue. Same thing again. Format cells that contain specific text. Subclone. Format in green. Okay. And all the subclones are in green now. And then when I go to something else like this and say subclone, it's going to turn green automatically. So that's kind of nice, and it helps to easily keep things color-coded and neat and pretty. So now I'm going to go to the actual freezer log, or the file that I was working with at the time that I did it, and show you how to create that pivot table that I made. Because it was really helpful for seeing what percentage the freezers are filled to capacity and such things like that. For that, pivot tables are fantastic. So if I'm on the sheet with all the data, if I go to Insert Pivot Table, it's going to select everything for me automatically, and I want to make sure it says New Worksheet to not make it messy. Press OK. And here it's going to ask you what you want in that pivot table. So for me, the main goal was to see the capacity of everything and then what was in it, because one of the labels that I had was empty, so I wanted to see what percentage of that freezer was empty and which freezers had the least amount of stuff, etc. So if I pull freezer to the row labels here, and then rack, freezer, rack, box, location. I have this expandable menu here, and I want to collapse all this stuff because it'll make it easier. So if I right click on this pivot table, I can say expand to collapse, collapse entire field, and I'll neatly close all of those up. So that's kind of nice. And then I can just go, this is freezer 1, I open it up and I can see this is rack 1, box 1. Rack 1, box 2, etc. So I'm going to collapse it again because it's easier to see. Oops. And then I wanted to sort it by type. So for column, I'm going to say type. It's not going to show anything until I put type into values, and it's going to say count of type. And now I can see in freezer 1 there are like 1200 empty, and this is all broken down by type, and then the total of what's in each freezer. So it's super fast to calculate all of that information that you need to know. It's really fantastic. And I can even go type, drag it over here, and say value field settings, percent column total, or row total is what I need. Yeah. And so then I can see for this, now there's a spelling mistake in here, that's why these are coming up separately, but it doesn't matter. So for the empty unknown, I have 1200 of that, and that's 12.75% of this freezer. So that's kind of really handy to know. I know that freezer 1 is the least full, and you can sift through that, and it makes it really easy. The other thing that you can do is, I'm going to get rid of this to simplify things a bit, is make a graph, which will help you easily visualize this. So if I go to Insert, Column, Graph, I can pull this graph up, and it'll say, look, in freezer 1, we have these categories, and you can visually see exactly how much is in each category. And then I can expand this and say in freezer 2, this is now broken down by rack. So that's kind of nice. Obviously you can make it bigger to see that more easily. So that's just a really fast and easy way to get all of the numbers you need from this giant file that's like, I don't know, 80,000 something. So that's really helpful. Okay, I hope that makes sense to you, and ask me any questions if you haven't. One more thing I want to show you is just a neat trick in Excel, and so I have a spelling error here, and so I spelled unknown wrong. So the way to fix this is, you can see it's a bunch of the freezers. It's kind of frustrating, but if I go back to our data source here, and I select this row A, which is the one with all of the categories, and I press Control F, Control Find, and I go to Replace, I can find my unknown spelling mistake and replace it with unknown, and just click Replace All. It replaced 3,500 cells all on its own in a matter of seconds. It's fantastic. And then when I go back to this pivot table, if I right click on it and just press refresh, and that spelling mistake column went away. So it's super easy and really fast to do that. It's kind of awesome. And there's a lot of things you can do with that. Anytime there are spelling mistakes or something that you want to fix, like one of the things for me was, say I wanted to just find some parents here. I put in all these zeros for the sorting, so instead of like 80 it reads 080, and the way that you can do this is if you select your data that you want to edit and press Control Find again, I can go find that backslash and replace it with \0 and then replace all. You just see it added another 0 there. So there's a lot of things you can use the find and replace tool for that completely simplifies your life and saves you hours of work. So it's really great.